Hello and welcome to Basic Horse Care with me, Donna. Today we're going to talk about tack. There is an awful lot of tack out there. There are different types of bits, different types of girths, and we're going to just show you a selection from Mackie Ireland of what you might come across. We're going to start with the bits. This is an egg butt snaffle. This is said to be the simple bit. It's the kind of bit that you'd use if you didn't know of a horse or if you weren't sure about a horse, you'd ride him in this first. Now whenever you're using any type of bit, it is important that your horse has seen a dentist before you start changing bits. An egg butt snaffle has what's called a nutcracker action in the middle. You can see that there. When it hangs in your horse's mouth, it should always hang so that the nutcracker is up the way, never that way. If you do it this way, it can pinch your horse's tongue. Always have it this way. The egg butt snaffle, as you can see, has a fixed joint here. If you have a horse with a soft mouth, which is basically soft skin around the corner of his mouth, this is sometimes preferable. You can get it in a loose ring as well, which basically the ring just loops through. If you have a horse with a soft mouth, that can sometimes pinch, so this is generally the best option. Different types of bits do different things. An egg butt snaffle is just a standard bit. You also have gag bits. Now a gag bit is when you use the bit, it pulls the head of the horse down. It has what's called a pull action. It works up behind the horse's ears. The two most common gags that you'll get is called a Cheltenham gag and a continental gag. This is the Cheltenham gag. As you can see, it looks very like the egg butt snaffle. Different to the egg butt snaffle, it has two rings, one at the top of the mouth and one at the bottom. This is for cheek pieces which flow through the holes, down and attach to the reins so that when the rein is pulled, it pulls down on the horse's head. The more common gag used is a continental gag, otherwise known as a 3-ring or a bubble bit. It's this one. Again, you can see it has nutcracker action, but you can see the rings on the side. It has one at the top, which your cheek piece is attached to, a large ring, which your normal rein is attached to, and then if your horse or pony is a little bit too strong, you can use the lower rings. This bit was designed to be used with 2 reins. Always have the standard rein, the rein that you ride on normally, on the top ring. And then you have a thinner rein or a second rein on either this ring or this ring. A lot of people use roundings, which is just a little leather strap which goes from this ring to this ring and you put one rein on, so you can ride with one normal rein. Some people ride with one rein and attach it to this ring or to this ring. It's not a good idea. Because the gag bit pulls your horse's head down, it can cause back problems if it's incorrectly used. So by swinging on a single rein on here, you can pull the bit all the way through like this, and that can cause serious damage to your horse. Not a great idea if you're not used to riding. Now, we have a French link here, which is this one here. Now, as you can see again, based on the egg butt snaffle, but it has a flat link in the middle. This is for horses that tend to lean on the bit or sometimes get a little bit uncomfortable in their mouth. With the double joint, it can just stop horses from grabbing and pulling forward. It also gives you just a little bit more pulling power. It depends again on your horse. Always check with someone who is experienced with horses about what bit to use. Don't just guess and go up and down in strength. Start with something soft. If it's not working, get advice. This bit here is called a pellum. It's called a mullen mouth pellum because, do you see the way it has a straight bar? This is called a mullen mouth. Now you can get all different types in a mullen mouth, and this is a pellum. As you can see from the pellum, it's something like the continental gag. You have the upper ring here, which your cheek piece attaches to. You have the larger ring for your normal rein, and a little ring for your second rein. This little hole here is for what's called a lip strap, which is just a small little leather strap that goes from here through the curb chain and back onto here. It just stops the curb chain from rattling around. This is what's called a curb chain. Now, if you have to use this is a very severe bit. If you have to use this curb chain, always make sure that you roll the curb until it's flat. And you see that? It's flat. So if it starts off all jumbledy up, you turn it until it's flat. This is so that your horse doesn't get uncomfortable. It hooks back on over here, and if you have a lip strap, it loops through here. Lip strap is not essential, it doesn't have to be used, it just looks a little bit neater and tidier. The pelham bit works on the lower jaw. As you pull your horse's reins, this curb chain will go up into the chin and act on the curb. That's why it's called a curb chain. This is quite a severe bit, and again, if you're going to use a severe bit, get advice first. Ask someone who's experienced with horses to ride your horse and make sure that they actually do need such a severe bit. Sometimes a noseband fitted correctly can do the same job. This bit here is called a full cheek fulmer snaffle. As you can see, it has full cheeks. It's for horses that aren't great at steering. If you pull that through, it'll hold your horse's head and actually direct your horse's head. You can see the loose ring here, which is a little bit stronger than the fixed ring, but because it has these cheek pieces, it's not going to pinch your horse's mouth. That's the fulmer. This one here is called a hackamore, otherwise known as a bitless bridle. Now the hackamore, even though it doesn't go into your horse's mouth, it still comes under the bit category because it's what you use for steering. It has a curb chain at the back which fits across here. This black rubber part goes across the horse's nose, and it actually has a chain on the inside, so it's quite strong. Depending on the length of the shank, which is this bit here, depends on how much leverage you have. The cheek piece attaches here and the reins attach here. Basically with this you get nose action. You pull the horse's head back towards you. If you have a horse that has a very dodgy mouth, has had injuries in his mouth, or has a very bad dentistry problem, you sometimes need to ride without a bit. This is a severe bitless bridle. You can also get what's called an English hackamore, which has the same kind of an idea, but instead of having a long shank, it just has a very short shank, and it has a soft furry bit across the nose instead of the chain. If you're unsure, again, seek advice. This bit here is called the chiffney bit. Now the chiffney bit isn't usually ridden in. This is a bit for leading. You can also get a bit called a dexter, which is based on this, but just has a little snaffle attached here. That bit you can ride in. This one, for leading. It has what's called a slip head attached, which is this, because you don't fiddle with it, you just literally slip it on, slip it off. This little ring here clips back onto the horse's head collar with your lead rope, and you lead from that. You should never lead directly off of this bit. It is a very strong bit. It stops young horses from running away, and it also stops horses that rear. That concludes the bit section for today. I'll be showing you how to fit it a little later on. If you're ever unsure about what bit to use, seek advice from someone that you know is experienced. It is very important that you never ever overbit or upbit a horse, and that just basically means that you put a bit that's too strong in your horse's mouth. If you put a bit that's too strong in a horse's mouth, you can do a number of things. Number one, if you're jumping fences, you can teach your horse to stop at the fences. Number two, you can make your horse afraid of the bit so that when you pull the reins, your horse panics and either bolts or just stands frozen to the ground. And three, you can actually damage your horse's mouth physically. You can hurt him around his lips or on his gums. So make sure that you fit and use the correct bit at all times. All the equipment used in these videos is sponsored by Mackie Ireland.